In the editing and proofreading process, you need to be able to correct various errors in paragraphs. The best way to do this is to understand first the rule of writing. In this video, I am Areel and my friend Arief will explain the important rules that often come up, such as punctuation, capitalization, run-on sentences, and fragment sentences. Rules of punctuation. There are several rules of punctuation in English. First, three types of words are capitalized in English. The first word in a sentence, the proper noun I, and proper nouns. Proper nouns is a specific names for a particular person, place, or things. It is always capitalized in English, no matter where they fall in a sentence. Depending on the sentence, there are different rules for capitalization after punctuation, like quotation marks, colons, and semicolons. Some proper nouns can also be common nouns, so it's difficult to know how to capitalize them. Generally, you should capitalize the names of people, places, titles of works, nationalities, languages, institutions like companies, historical eras, days, months, holidays, initials, and acronyms. Capitalize the first word in the complete sentence that is a direct quote, even if the quote begins in the middle of or at the end of a sentence. If the quote is a sentence fragment that is a continuation of a larger sentence, do not capitalize it. This is the most common when you're quoting only a specific word or phrase instead of a long passage. There are 13 most common punctuation marks in English. The first is period or full stop. It is symbolized by that tiny circle or dot. Periods are used at the end of sentences and in abbreviations. Period also used to indicate omissions, indirect questions, and initial. Now let's look at this period example. Mrs. Rina is sleeping with her favorite toy. Notice that we put the period after Mrs. because it is an abbreviation, and also in the last word of toy. She asks where her room is. This is an indirect question, which meant a question that is reported to other people. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. This is a period example in initial. Quotation marks are a type of punctuation that set words and passages apart from the rest of the text. Use quotation mark to quote a short directly, so dialogue, signal the titles of short works, doubt the fidelity of word, discuss a word without its intended meaning, or differentiate a nickname. Several other essential rules exist for correctly using quotation marks, including when to use single versus double quotation marks. This is an example of use of quotation mark in a citation from the same author. Notice that you don't need to put a capitalized because it's still same citation. This is an example of quotation marks used to indicate direct speech and dialogue. Meanwhile, this is used to write the title of work. Also, don't forget to capitalize the first letter of the title. When you want to quote within a quotation, use only single quotation mark inside of quotation. Apostrophe. There are two uses of the apostrophe. First is to indicate possession of noun, and second to use on a contraction. These are examples of apostrophe for indicating possession. When you already write a plural noun, you only need to add an apostrophe. Additionally, for plural nouns that do not end in s, add apostrophe s. When an author has s name on it, in this case Dickens, you can use both styles. Both is valid and can be used. A contraction is a shortened form of a word or group of words that omit certain letters or sounds. In the contractions, an apostrophe represents missing letters. The most common contractions are made up of verbs, auxiliaries, or modals attached to the other words, such as he would become he'd, I have become I've, they are become they are, you cannot become you can't, and so on. Ellipsis is symbolized by three dots or period. It is used to signal as omitted information, a pause, or trailing off. In the first example, there's a fragment of a sentence in red. We can remove that sentence and replace it with an ellipsis. You need to pay attention to which sentences will be replaced with an ellipsis so that the grammar of sentence remains correct. This is an example of a trolling of silence. In speech, we sometimes leave sentences unfinished for a variety of reasons. Maybe forget what we want to say, or maybe our listener already know what we'll say, so we don't need to say it. In writing, this occurrence is represented by an ellipsis. When the ellipsis comes at the end of a sentence or code, it means that the speaker has trailed off before finishing. Exclamation point or exclamation mark. These punctuation are used for interjection sentences, exclamation, or strong command. These are examples of the use of an exclamation point. If you want an exclamation point only for the quote, put the mark inside the quotation. But if you want the entire sentences, put it outside the quotation. Semicolon. A semicolon is a punctuation mark symbolized by a dot and a comma. It is used to connect closely to related independent clauses in a single sentence when discussing the same topic or contrasting two similar ideas. The connection between the two independent clauses should always be apparent without a coordinating conjunction like and. Example, I have a big presentation tomorrow. I need to prepare my notes tonight. Use semicolons before common conjunction at verbs like moreover, nevertheless, and however. A semicolon can divide items within a list if they are long or contain internal punctuation, helping readers keep track of divisions between them. Semicolons provide a stronger pause than a comma and a softer transition than a period. Colon. A colon introduces an element or series of elements that illustrates or amplifies the information that precedes the colon. A colon appears in a sentence. It usually gives the silent impression of as follows, which is are or thus. A writer might use colons to illustrate their points by providing certain example. A colon can be used to separate a movie, book, or another piece of work's title from its subtitle. Phrases. Phrases are very rarely used in writing. Some style guides or grammar resources will not have any formal use for them. However, some resources will cite one acceptable use for phrases. It is to grouping together a set. Phrases are always used in pairs. As with the other type of brackets, it is considered a grammatical error to only use a single phrase. Phrases are typically used in pairs. Because braces typically indicate a set rather than a list, the word "and" is usually not written before the final item. The first item in a set within a pair of braces is not capitalized unless it is a proper noun. Parentheses and brackets. Parentheses are used to set aside tangential or unnecessary information. They are typically used for complementary explanations or personal commentary from the author, as well as for defining acronyms. Parentheses are used to add extra information that isn't necessary but is still helpful. This extra information often includes defining acronyms, especially the first time they are used in the text. Because parenthetical text usually relates to what's directly before it, it shouldn't follow a comma. However, it's completely normal to place a comma after parentheses without a space. If you remove the text in parentheses, the sentence should still be complete and correct. You can't put parentheses in here because one is a transitive verb. It needs a direct object outside of parentheses. If the text in parentheses is a complete sentence and it's separate from surrounding sentences, the period goes inside the parentheses. Additionally, a phrase that could stand alone as a complete sentence can also be contained inside another complete sentence. If it's not a complete sentence, the period goes outside the parentheses. Brackets look similar to parentheses but have squared corners instead of curved lines. They're also used to set aside complementary information, but they serve different functions. Brackets are often found inside quotations to show text added to the original quote. When referencing someone else's work, it's best to use only the passages that are relevant to your topic. Because of this, an important word or phrase might be missing from the passage you kept, in which case you could add the missing context in brackets. Notice how the text in brackets was not part of the original quote but provided context to help the readers understand what was being discussed by defining the pronouns it. When using brackets, it's important to replace the original text with words or phrases that still make the sentence grammatically correct.
We're gonna talk about what is a sentence fragment. Sentence fragment is an incomplete sentence, even though it begins with a capital letter and ends with a punctuation. A fragment fails to be a full sentence because it lacks one of the three key elements. First, a subject, who or what is performing the action. Second, a verb or predicate, the action being performed. Three is a complete talk. It doesn't make sense if it stands alone. How to identify and fix them? Fragments are often dependent clauses that have been separated for their main sentence. There are two primary ways to fix them. First, add the missing element. Provide a subject or verb so the sentence can stand on its own. Example: incorrect. Looking forward to seeing you. It's not no subject in there. Correct. I am looking forward to seeing you. Attach it a complete sentence. The second, connect the fragment to the sentence before or after it. Example: incorrect. The party was cancelled because of the rain. The correct. The party was cancelled because of the rain. Key example: fragment because of the rain. Leave the question: what happened because of the rain? Not a fragment. Short but complete. I ran or Jesus wept. Despite being very short, these contain a subject and a verb and convey a complete thought. After that, we're gonna talk about stylistic usage. While considered an error in a formal writing, academic or business, sentence fragments are something used intentionally in a creative writing, journalism, or blogging to create a dramatic effect, emphasize a point, mimic the way people speak, conventional tone. Okay, we're gonna talk about a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence is a common grammatical error that occurs when two or more independent clauses, complete thoughts, are joined together incorrectly. Contrary to popular belief, a run-on sentence is not just a long sentence. It is a sentence with incorrect structural connection. Type of run-on sentence. There are three primary types of error categorized as run-ons. First, fuse sentence occurs when two independent clauses are joined with no punctuation at all. Example: I was hungry, I ate a sandwich. Second, comma splice occurs when two independent clauses are joined by only a comma without a coordinating conjunction. Example: I was hungry. I ate a sandwich. Third is polysyndeton. Occurs when a sentence uses too many conjunctions like and or but repeatedly, making the sentence drag on unnecessarily. There are four standard ways to correct run-on sentence. The first, create two separate sentences. Use a period to end the first talk and start a new sentence. Fix: I was hungry. I ate a sandwich. Use a semicolon. Use a semicolon to connect two closely related ideas without adding extra words. Example, I was hungry. I ate a sandwich. Use a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Use a comma followed by one of fanboys. For and nor, but, or, yet, so. Example, I was hungry, so I ate a sandwich. Last is use a subordinating conjunction. Use words like because, although, if, or since to turn one clause into a dependent clause. Because I was hungry, I ate a sandwich.